Good morning to everybody. First of all, I would like to apologize for my voice, but the weather in Paris, air conditioning in the plane, air conditioning in the airport. I hope it will be possible to speak during 15 minutes, but after it will certainly be the end for today. But first of all, I would like to thank you to give me the possibility to be with you this morning here in Tallinn in this meeting. As you told a few seconds ago, I'm not here for a presentation. I'm here to share with you the interest of the professional users. So I will not have slides. I will not have a complete presentation of a project, of our project, but I will just try to explain what are our concerns, what our questions, what our experience can, how it can improve your project and how it can be taken in account in the development of this project. Interest of professional. Of course, we are notaries, and when we are speaking about real estate, notaries, you know, in many countries are largely involved in this matter. You also know that we are not the greater supporters of this project. It's not new. You know, we have published some written position concerning LRI project, and I will try to explain why we have some reserves concerning this project. And maybe one of the main reason it's we are notaries, we are largely involved in real estate matters, and we all know that it's a very, very difficult matter when we speak about real estate, when you speak about interconnection of register, regarding the real estate systems in Europe. But first of all, I would like you to remind that as European notaries, and as a member of the CNUE, we are always fully involved in many projects of e-justice portal, in many projects aiming to create interconnection between registers, and the creation of such interconnection is really in our core action in the CNUE initiative and the CNUE activities. And for example, and if I can, I will try to illustrate these reflections with description of a few interconnection on which we are involved, deeply involved. As example, if you know it, but I will put in the table. We have a very old interconnection system concerning last will and testament. It's an interconnection existing since decades, and it is now a very interesting interconnection that functions very well. And it is dedicated, as you know, to search wills, to search testament for people deceased in the EU. You have more than 10 members now in the EU that are connected through this interconnection of this register. We also are supporting an interconnection project regarding the creation of representation rights and power of Atene register, dedicated to the possibility to find the existence of instruments for protection of vulnerable adults, organized to help persons of old age or bad health. We also, as you may know, propose the creation of matrimonial regime register, mainly for the support and the improvement of the new EU regulation entered in force 3 months ago regarding this matter of matrimonial property regime. And we also took part in interconnection of some national existing register. For example, you all know the interconnection of the business registers. We are part of this project. There is in many countries very important involvement of notaries in the creation of company, and the notaries took their part in the creation and development of the e-business register. Why why am I speaking about these few examples? It's just because I need to illustrate that interconnection in these different examples take place with the main purpose to facilitate a cross-border circulation of legal situation. Succession, I didn't speak about the register, but concerning European succession certificate, but we are thinking about such a register. Matrimonial property regime, powers and representation instruments, legal information about company acting abroad, or insolvency, as it was presented a few moments ago. So this is the main goal, facilitate the circulation of legal situation. Regarding the possible interconnection of land registers, maybe the things will be a little different. For the European notariates, it has always been very important to recall that for the development of a new project, it is essential to look for the utility, the feasibility, and the potential risk that would be linked to a project. So regarding the utility of interconnecting the land register. The interconnection of registers, now realized for 2 countries, as we can see this morning, is for us source of a lot of complexity and maybe source of maybe some risk. I will illustrate in a short moment. And regarding interconnection of those land registers, the utility may, for us, not be so clear. If we consider, for example, that many national registers or cadastre system can already be consulted online according to the substantive law in force in the member state concerned. You all make the experience to go on the website of a national system and to connect directly to a national system. If we are taking the experience of other projects, and I'm thinking about the ULIS project concerning the interconnection of cadastre, this project unfortunately was never a big success because finally it didn't find really interested users, and now it is really easy to connect directly, once again, to the national cadastres. In France, in my country, for example, there is a website of the cadastre, and any people, according to the limitation granted by the French regulation, any people can connect on the website of the cadastre and can collect the information that you can legally collect it in France in the cadastre system. We also have the question of the raw information, the raw data provided by means of such an interconnection is maybe not a very high interest for professionals who finally need the information in the context of having all the substantive law information against the information. They don't need just to have raw data, as we can see here on the examples this morning, but also professionals need to have real data on which we have explanations, and I know we'll speak about this question further, and also reliable data. And it's also for us a very important issue to have the certainty of the exhaustivity of the exactitude of all the data. We also have to face 2 fundamental differences between the register systems currently in place in all our member states. You all know this problem, but it's a very important problem. A registration system, incorporation, third-party effectiveness, difference is very, very important between deed system and title system. Just we'll take some water to try to continue. You all know that the effect of a registration in Germany is really different from a registration in France. So how to manage those in the same interconnection system. Regarding more specifically the feasibility of the interconnection, these very important differences in substantive law, in organization of our land registers and cadastres, because in some countries everything is managed by the land register. In some other countries there is a lot of things that has to be registered in cadastre. In some other country there is a link between cadastre and real estate register. Once again, we don't know if we will collect information from the land register, if we will collect information from the cadastre, what information try to find in what register. It's not always easy to understand our system, our national system. Providing different types of information without including legal details that can only be provided by experts from the national legislation can be a source of legal uncertainty and confusion for all. Risk on confusion between the notion of owner in a title system, for example, and the notion of buyer in a deed system of property. In a deed system, the register will never say that someone is the owner. It will just say this deed is the last one registered in our register. So it's completely different. The translation. Is a very important issue and certainly can be a source of many confusion. It's for some terms or some concept we could think that it's very simple to translate, hypothèque, mortgage. But finally, when you really try to examine the legal concept before the term, you will find that there is sometimes really important differences. So the translation is an important issue. And regarding all those questions, I will point out the danger that future readers of documents issued by the system will believe that the information held by the National Register is exhaustive, whereas other information may be recorded elsewhere. As I told, part of information is the land registry, part of information in cadastre, for example. And maybe also the people who will receive the information through the LRI system may not be totally informed that regarding or in conformity with the national system where the registration of a transfer of property will take place, finally the information collected from the register will not take in account problem as matrimonial property regime, problem as expropriation, problem of protection of coast, of a lot of regulation that may have a very important influence in the right of property. All these problems are not new. And when I see just on my left Jesus Camille, who is here, I want to pay tribute to the very important work of the Imola project, trying to find a common language for information obtained from all our national register and to attempt the best possible translation of legal terms and concepts. I know it's two very important difficulty you have to face. I remember the famous template for we try together regarding the possibility to have a European real estate certificate, and we found a lot of difficulties in such a way. Very, very difficult. In Germany, you have a owner, as I told. In France, you have a buyer. It's really not the same. And as I told, the translation is very difficult. And when you speak of legal terms, you need a lot of precision. You need to be precise on the legal terms. So I know that Imola 2 project has a big concern regarding all those questions of translation. In addition, and as you know, access to the registers differs from the member states to another. Access for private individuals, professionals, legitimate interests to justify. We have seen examples just here on the demonstration, and also the question of search on the real basis by an ID property, or on personal basis by the name of the owner. And this is maybe one of the most important risks we have in this project, because I remember at the beginning of this project we heard sometime that such an interconnection will give the unique opportunity to search immovable assets of a citizen all around Europe, for example, to the benefit of a creditor, of financial institution, or any other users. But since the beginning, we underlined the very important issue of privacy and data protection. I know that LRI project consider this topic mainly as a political aspect, and that in any case the national law of register will have to be respected. But notaries of Europe, as professional lawyers, are all deeply attached and linked by essence to the respect of privacy and confidentiality and to the protection of personal data. Since the beginning of this project, we underline this issue as maybe one of the major issues. And we are not sure that in the context of the new EU regulation, the famous GDPR, it will be permitted so easily to collect data on a personal basis without serious guarantee. Limitation of the nature of the data collected, limitation of the purpose of this collection, information, and even in some case consent of the concerned person. This is really important points. Just to illustrate this point, this specific topic, last year in France, the government appointed a working group to make proposition concerning the modernization of the French registration system for real estate, because we have currently our regulation is dated 1955, so it's a bit old and without any specific regulation regarding digitalization. I was a member of this group, and we had many hearings of different professional or authorities. And of course, we had a hearing with what we call in France the Commission Nationale Informatique et Liberté, which is the national authority for data protection. And one of the most important remarks of this national authority for data protection is that it is certainly not possible under French regulation and under maybe EU regulation to collect information on personal basis only without any limitation, very specific restriction, and without the information and in many cases the consent of the concerned person. It is a very important issue, and this authority told us, because we were asked to prepare a modification of the law, told us that it has regarding only the French system, it has to be part of the new regulation, of the new legal regulation for the access of the French register, that it will not be possible to collect data on personal basis through a digital and general access. So I think it's a very important issue. You all know that it's also a very important issue in Germany, for example. But I know also that our traditions are not the same in all the European Union, and that protection of personal data in many countries are have different aspects. This is our tradition, this is our regulation, our whole regulation, and of course it has to be respected. So finally, what you ask to me is to say if the LRI project have a direct interest today for notaries, for European notaries. In fact, you know the answer at this moment. At this moment, I'm not really sure. For example, I told Jesus Camille a few minutes ago that last week, being in charge of the succession of a French citizen holding real asset in Portugal, I just asked one of my clerks, speaking Portuguese, to connect himself to the national Portuguese system, and he succeeded, and he collected all the information we needed for the treatment of succession case. It seems really easy, and there is no difficulties. It has not been possible, or if I need to have more information, because I just collected the public information, the information that Portuguese system give to anyone. If it has not been possible, and if I need to have more information, especially reliable information, I will have contact a colleague or the appropriate lawyer. You know that notaries are not the only lawyers involved in real estate conveyancing in Europe. And if necessary, we will have work together to solve the problem we are facing, or to give our client the information or the advice he is looking for. So even if interconnection will be, or is in many cases, a very useful tool, we also strongly believe in a network of human competences, of professional human added value, and regarded the field of real estate law and register. Regarding the complexity of this matter, regarding all the different traditions and systems we have in Europe, regarding also the risk we have by not being in possession of reliable and complete information, as we notaries think that the network of all professionals, seems for us now to be the only useful solution. Nevertheless, of course, I will be happy to use LRI system if tomorrow it gives us the possibility to have reliable information, to have a connection between a connection to member state registers that are not still possible directly on the website of the National Register, and I'm here to share with you and to discuss all the opportunity that we can create together to use LRI system. Once again, today, LRI systems is not for us a solution. But I hope that one day it will be a tool, as we have other tools with interconnection of systems that we still have realized together. So we hope that someday LRI system will be really useful for us. You were speaking this morning about the succession, the EU regulation about succession. Of course, it's a very interesting subject for the development of connections through LRI projects, but I'm not sure that today it is working enough to have the information we need concerning the treatment of a succession case. Thank you again for hearing me this morning, and thank you again to the organization for this kind of invitation. Once again, I say that we are here, notaries, to share and to discuss with the different organizations and people involved in this beautiful project. Thank you. And sorry again for my voice.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Vachon. Merci.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that insight on your perspective. Of course, we knew at the beginning that you would not talk 100% in favor of our project, but still, or even more, I would say that's a very important contribution, because we not at the beginning, but also throughout the project, that it would not be easy to connect all these land registers from a technical point of view, but also, of course, from a business point of view. But even the more, I would say, I very much appreciate your contribution here. So I would again like to open a question and answers session for questions to Monsieur Vachon. Maybe just for, I think you've seen it, but for an insight, what you think are the main user groups for LRI. I would say for the big points, not much of a surprise here, as we have notaries, citizens, courts, and banks, but also we have some smaller written user groups here. Yeah, it's quite a nice insight of what we have to cover actually. Okay, then may I open the Q&A session? Please raise your hand if you have any questions to Monsieur Vachon. Yeah. Okay. So just
Thank you. I'm Jörn Kickinger from Austria. I was the former project manager, already retired, so I just have my interest still in this project. And my question is, I think we need to avoid some misunderstanding, because we are not doing a new collection of data. We just have a central query interface which forwards the request to the original land register and gets real data which this land register exposes. So it's nothing new. We don't build a new data collection. And the second thing is that we see some value in practical reasons. Of course, we cannot solve all the difficulties of the world in one step, but we need to approach this problem step by step. And so we are working on several sides. Our project is working on the techniques of the interconnections, and some countries which are able to do this and which are willing this because interconnection is voluntary. We invite to join them because we think it's useful. Of course, for citizens, you can only get basic information. If you need to go detail and understand the legal concepts, you need anyway a professional, because you should also go to court with the help of a lawyer in a more complicated case. So this is not new for court proceedings. And also the semantics aspects, the Imola project is working, and this will not in one step need to finalize this solution, but we need to go further, otherwise we stay at the current status. And so I would encourage you to start with the first steps, because they are complicated anyway enough, because it's not rocket science to transport some fields over a data link, but you need to do a careful analysis. You need to match it to your fields, and you need to modify a little bit the country-specific search forms, but then you can get a useful system. Of course, you get more or less the original excerpt of the National Land Register, and later on, with the help of Imola, you will be provided in a better presentation what is the content, and we have anyway any legal disclaimers behind, and of course you need to say on the front page if this is a deed system or if it's a title system. But I think in the long term it will be useful, and to build it there is no way other than starting now, because otherwise we will run and the years will pass, because even for the first step we also thought it would be simpler. But now we are at a point that we say it's technically feasible, there must be enhancements, the Commission needs to do some work, but then I think in the very end it will succeed. Okay, thank you.
If I can just add a word, I totally agree with you, and especially regarding the concept of going step by step with the project Imola, for example, and maybe regarding the target of this portal, because when you see on the screen bank, notaries, citizens, as you told us, when you ask information through this portal and in respect to the national regulation, you will receive the excerpt, and you also will receive a disclaimer, a notice. You will be advertised that you have to please take more information on the website or on an attached documentation. So I'm not sure that it's really a system that can be dedicated to citizens. To professionals, I'm sure that one day it will be very useful, but to citizens, do you really think that citizens will be able to use such a system? I am not sure. Maybe we have to concentrate the target on legal professionals, maybe on banks, even if I'm not sure that banks are so interested, because we as professionals, we manage a lot of bank activity, and we know that banks want to have legal certainty, and it's not easy to have legal certainty with the disclaimers, with the notice, etc., etc. So there is a place for the legal professional and the land registry interconnection. But I don't know if it's really an initiative for citizens. It's my whole opinion.
If I might just add here, also a personal opinion, I totally agree with you. I also think that the big points that we've seen here will be the main users. Not so much citizens, probably, because this was also an experience we have made in Austria throughout all e-justice systems, that the persons and institutions that we communicate with at most is actually not citizens, but all kinds of professionals. But of course, you know, as we are doing EU-funded projects here, of course, it's very up to date to say you address citizens with your systems, and I do agree that this is something we should focus at as well. But as said before, I think these legal professionals will be the main user groups for the land register. I think here is another question.
Yes. Of course, I recognize that the interconnection of the land register is a very complex target, but I think it's feasible. It's feasible, and I am very trusted in that it's all the actors involved. We work coordinated. Is a goal that may be achieved. And what is important is to, from the LRI centralized platform, to develop this basic model of services at national levels to make the necessary adaptation and to develop one semantic model to explain this information. Because for me, the main problem is not the translation; it's define the juridical meaning of each of the concepts that is used in this national information that will be provided by this single access point. I think that this is a necessary project, the interconnection, and I think that the main problem is to coordinate the action of different actors involved. But I am very trusted in that we get the goal.
Yeah, I think there's another question back there. I agree that the legal meaning of a word is sometimes really hard to define. It's in Austria, I can say that we have a very hard time every time to explain the term Rechtspfleger. Some of you might understand that in Austria and in Germany we have this institution as a Rechtspfleger who actually also deal very much with land registers. And I think in Estonia there's also some similar kind of institution. And last night or the night before we were discussing what is the best way to translate it. Actually, there isn't. The only correct answer would be to explain what it is, but then you would need 5 minutes for that. So that's a really a tough task here. Yes, Harald, please.
Yes, my name is Harald Wisch, coming from Munich, Bavaria, and I would like to ask you a question because you mentioned the differences between the title system and the deed system. And when you look at LRI, do you think, as a member of a deed system, do you think that the deed system will get under pressure while looking at LRI because it's concepted probably in a special way? So my question, or my question to you, as a member of a deed system, do you think that deed systems will get under pressure when using LRI because it's for a user, it's maybe they would prefer title register?
I don't think that a deed system will be under pressure. We had, as I told, we had the last year working group concerning the modernization of our system, real estate system, the real estate system on itself and the registration of the real estate transfer. And of course, we have spoken about this issue because it is sure that a title system is really easier to understand for anyone. And if you don't have a country today who don't have any system, will certainly choose a title system. It's really more clear, it's easy to manage, it's easy to use, easy to understand. So, but anyway, when we are regarding all our legal system, French legal system, for example, but I think the same in Italy or part of Spain, etc., we never considered as under pressure. We consider that maybe the pressure can arrive not from a system or another, but maybe we will have pressure from title insurance, for example. And you know this question. It's I think that we in the EU area have different systems. They are both respectable, they are both issued for long legal tradition, and we have to deal with this tradition, because different tradition, legal tradition, because if we don't, maybe one day the threat will not be a system and from a system to another, but the threat may be the title insurance system, for example. And
thank you very much. I would like. Okay, Manfred.
May I say a word to the difference between title and deed system, and let's see what was mentioned from my colleague about the pressure on deed system. I think in the first steps we have done, we have been thinking about synchronous versus asynchronous. And the deed system, when you have not digital information available, tagged contracts or whatever it is, and documents, then I think it is not necessary to think about pressure against a system, because when you asynchronous can construct your certificate, who has brought the last contract, who was the last buyer, known by the public office, by the land register. This is your kind of how you certificate the last buyer, let's say. Something like this. And this is one kind of information. And we are aware that there will be a diversity of information, a diversity of systems, and the high diversity, the high workload for all of us that may come in. How to work on this on a legal basis, meaning a legal basis on focused on member states, and not what we are thinking as a neighbor state or somebody in Brussels. This is just to add for the. I don't think it is a pressure for deed system.
No, it's just a question of information for the people who receive this certificate or this information through the system, just to know, and it's the disclaimer or the notice of whatever you want, just to know that if you are under a title system, you have a certainty about the property right, and if you are under a deed system, I will not say that you have not certainty, because the certainty is organized under another system, the responsibility of the notary that made the this deed, this publicated deed. But it has to be disclaimed that it's not the same system and that the information has not the same value. But as you said, it is always possible to have on the system the indication of the last owner or the last buyer, the last beneficiary of rights on an asset, of course.
It's a question of description and awareness, I think.
Description is a very, very complicated. I think.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We have received some questions from the audience, some general questions. I just would like to pick out one because maybe you can help me with the answer there. So the question goes as follows. You said the effects of registration are different in Germany and France. Has anyone performed any comparative research with which you can find that out? That would help in working on national registers. I would like to ask the audience, because I am not aware of any comparative analysis regarding that issues. I have to say, while you were talking, it crossed my mind that we could put something up like that in an LRI 2 or even 3 project.
Harold.
Well, at the end of the day, very globally and very roughly, like Johannes mentioned, there is a feasibility study from Brussels available, a very rough one, by the way. Well, we are aware about the system in a little bit about in France, about, let's say, Mulhouse, Alsace, and other parts, Marseille, and the rest of France. And we are aware about the system in Germany about restricted access to land book information. And things like this will appear in different colors and different paintings all over Europe. This is one of the most challenging activities we may have in front of us, coming from the different system itself, from the question who has access to what, and what is the legal meaning of information, and the legal value of an information, and how long does it have this kind of value, like a certificate you forward, this was the last buyer. How long does it last that it remains to be a correct information? These are general questions we have to go through, and I agree with Jesus. And as an old program manager, if you start in time, you have enough time to think about problems and to solve them. If you are out of time, if you have wasted time, you might be punished by top politicians to run into a goal and not to go. And I think we should take the time to go, to walk, to look around, to assess, and to look for the best solution possible.
Yeah, I think time was the key word now. We're quite behind the schedule. Again, thank you very much. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Vachon. Another round of applause, please, for Monsieur Vachon.